past the children. Yeah. My head is anointed and my cup runneth over. Yeah. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life.
So, big up for Ryan Buffett. Hip it, hip it, hip it. And one day I might have to walk the hills with him. Goodbye. God bless you. It's because of a man called Ryan Buffett, whose name the people of St. Joseph, I am told, have come to learn very, 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 very well.
Here I come with love and not hatred. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life. Envy no one, no wish to be with no evil man. For there'll come the day when you'll be whipped by the feathers and leave up huge children. Oh yeah, leave up past the children. Yeah. My head is anointed and my cup runneth over. Yeah. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
So, big up for Ryan Buffett. Hip it, hip it, hip it. And one day I might have to walk the hills with him. Goodbye. God bless you. It's because of a man called Ryan Buffett, whose name the people of St. Joseph, I am told, have come to learn very, 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 very well.
Here I come with love and not hatred. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life. Envy no one, no wish to be with no evil man. For there'll come the day when you'll be whipped by the feathers and leave up huge children. Oh yeah, leave up past the children. Yeah. My head is anointed and my cup runneth over. Yeah. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right.
So, big up for Ryan Buffett. Hip it, hip it, hip it. And one day I might have to walk the hills with him. Goodbye. God bless you. It's because of a man called Ryan Buffett, whose name the people of St. Joseph, I am told, have come to learn very, 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 very well.
Here I come with love and not hatred. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I all the days of my life. Envy no one, no wish to be with no evil man. a tilting. Yeah. My head is anointed and my cup runneth over. Yeah. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow I.
Political leader and Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Mia Amor Motley, General Secretary of the Barbados Labour Party, Senator Dr. the Honorable Jerome Walcott, Member of Parliament for St. Joseph, the Honorable Dale Marshall, members of the National Executive, members of the National Council, members of Cabinet, members of the Lower and Upper House, members of all branches of the Barbados Labour Party, members of the branch of St. Joseph. Good evening to all of you. My name, as you know, is Comrade Chad Blackman, and I am your co-chair, of course, with none other than the Member of Parliament for St. Andrew, the Honorable Rommel Springer. This evening promises to be an exciting one. We are here, and I want to welcome you to the ancestral home of the great Barbados Labour Party, the constituency of St. Joseph, the seat and the constituency of the founding father of this party, none other than the Right Excellent Grantley Herbert Adams. This constituency, known for great leadership, known for inspiring a generation after generation, from Grantley Adams to Lindsey Bolden, to Johnny Cheltenham, to Dale Marshall, and this evening, who? This evening, who? Aha. So I want you to get comfortable. All of you on the outside, if you can come inside, please do so. This evening is one that promises for us as a Labour Party not just to be exciting, but you're going to see a number of very exciting things that makes it very clear that it is better with Labour. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you none other than our General Secretary, who will now outline the process and procedure of why we are here with respect to the nomination and its process. General Secretary.
Good evening, comrades. Good evening, comrades. Good. This looks good. This looks good. A sea of red. A nomination with hundreds of persons. A nomination in St. Joseph, on the east of the country, the eastern side of the country. Where does the sun rise? I'm just hinting. This doesn't look like a nomination. The energy in this room looks like something more important than a nomination. But unfortunately, today it is just a nomination. But you still look red and ready. Are you red and ready? Are you ready?
Hey, 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 hey.
Okay. As my comrade Chad said earlier, we're here regretfully to select someone to be the next candidate for the Barbados Labour Party in this important constituency of St. Joseph. Important indeed. Currently, you're represented by Dale Marshall. I believe all of you know him as Dale. And Dale has been your representative since 2003, I believe. 21 years. He has worked tirelessly on your behalf. And I know that every one of you in here can attest to that. Not hearing it. But as I say, the Chinese have a saying, just as in the sea, in the ocean, waves push waves, so in life, younger men will replace older men. And Comrade Marshall has indicated that it is a time for him to be replaced. And hence we are here. Over the years, we have had a bond of friendship, Dale and myself. We have worked together. We have seen some bad times. We have seen the good times. We have served in cabinet. We have had the occasional beverage together, not often. So indeed, for me, it is also a little sad to see him going, although I suspect that he will not be going alone. However, this evening, we are here for the nomination process. And it is simple and straightforward. Thus far, we have received one letter from one person indicating an interest in representing the Barbados Labour Party in this constituency. In a few minutes, I'm going to declare the nomination open and ask for that person to be officially nominated. There will be a proposer and a seconder. The proposer will be expected to speak for a few minutes, no more than 5 minutes, on behalf of the person they're proposing, and the seconder will not be speaking. I will answer if there are any other nominations, and if there are no other nominations, then I will declare nominations closed, and I will declare the person, if there are no other nominations, declare the person to be the person nominated. If there are other nominations, then that will be a different process. So I believe I'm clear. I'm going to declare nominations for a representative, for a candidate to represent the Barbados Labour Party in the St. Joseph constituency for the next election. Nominations are now open. Are there any proposals? What is your name, sir? He has to propose, he has to speak. That's like him and I. They should have been mic down there. That's what I'm trying to say. Give your name, say who you're proposing, and then stop. Then I'm going to ask for a second. When I finish, then you will speak. Okay.
My name is Victor Trevor Sylvester Grant. And I'm the proposer here this afternoon.
I need a seconder for that nomination.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Ford, and I will be second this nomination.
She's on the list? Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Mr. Hugh Springer is begging that nominations be closed. Is there a seconder? What's your name? She's on the list. Pat. No, we. She's not from St. Joseph, that we're telling her. Antoinette Clark is seconded. Nominations are now closed.
Thank you, Mr. General Secretary. As I said, thank you, Mr. General Secretary. This is a very momentous occasion here in St. Joseph. And it is so for more than one reason. Now, on this occasion, we have a candidate that is a descendant of St. Joseph. It is the first in a very long time. We've had Charles Lindsay Bolden St. Philip. We've had Dr. Richard Cheltenham, Christ Church. We've had Dale Marshall, St. George. And somewhere in between, we had Glenroy Strawn. Now, as was said, this is the ancestral home of the Barbados Labour Party. And it's good to note that on this occasion, we have a candidate who is a descendant of St. Joseph. And it is no doubt in my mind that the branch and the wider St. Joseph constituency intend to make Labour lead, and when Labour leads, Bajans succeed. Just to say a few things about Ryan. Ryan was educated at Mount Tabor Primary School, then on to Combermere, St. Augustine's campus of the University of the West Indies, where he obtained his civil engineering degree, and more recently, he obtained his law degree from the Cave Hill campus of the University of the West Indies. What an intellect we will be having here in St. Joseph. With all that academic achievement and the intellect, one thing that has outstood with Ryan, he is still a very humble person. He is compassionate and he brings hope to St. Joseph. And when I speak about his compassion, you would only have to be out in the field canvassing with him to see how he has demonstrated it. No wonder he's a candidate that has consensus in St. Joseph. Now, recently, I've heard sometime this week, one of the moderators from down by the river questioning the procedure in St. Joseph. Now that same fellow, has constantly and relentlessly criticized our present member of parliament. Now at the annual conference, you would have heard the Prime Minister said that the Honorable Dale Marshall is one of her hardest working ministers. We in St. Joseph know that. And this guy down from the river, who has relentlessly and continuously asked for the resignation of the Honorable Dale Marshall, does not know a thing. How can we have two diametrically opposing views? The Prime Minister saying that he is a good worker. Yeah, I know. I'm coming back to that. And this guy is saying that Dale needs to go. Who do we believe? We have to believe the Honorable Prime Minister who sat in the cabinet with Dale Marshall. So much for Dale now. I'll focus on Ryan a bit more. Ryan, as I said earlier, is an academic, that, as you can see from his achievements. But as I said, he brings compassion and he brings hope to St. Joseph. Ryan has been with us for over the last 10 years or so. He's no Johnny come lately, as someone that same guy would seem to suggest. And we in St. Joseph intend to make him the representative in the new parliament coming sometime next year or whenever.
Hey, 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 hey.
We are not going to leave any stone unturned in this endeavor. Ryan must go to be part of the Labour Party team that continue to lead this country exemplary. I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, have no fear. And we send notice to the candidate who's running here, I don't want to call his name anyhow, that we are having a formidable opponent in Ryan Brathwaite, one of our own. Hackenden's Cliff, just not too far from here, borders on St. John and St. Joseph. But Brian was bred and born in the St. Joseph section, and that makes him part of the ancestral home. Ladies and gentlemen, we intend to work hard and make Ryan the next honorable representative of St. Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring Ryan to you as the next member of Parliament for St. Joseph.
Thank you. You've heard it. There are no other person has been nominated. And from your response, I believe the selection of Ryan Brathwaite is unanimous. I can't hear. Ryan Brathwaite, you are now duly nominated to carry the baton for the Barbados Labour Party in the next election, whenever that is called. Now, come and speak to your people.
St. Joseph Youth, them see Ryan Brathwaite. Hey! St. Joseph put them solid as a rock. They just can't stop you now. People will say this and that. They just can't stop you now. St. Joseph the back, even when they set up roadblocks, they just can't stop you now. Even when they set up roadblocks, they just can't stop you now. Him rise above all the noise.
Good evening, St. Joseph. St. Joseph, we wake up in here, man. I want to thank Sizzler Kalonji for dedicating that song to the youth of St. Joseph. A round of applause for Sizzler Kalonji, all the way from Jamaica. I want to say good night to every friend, every supporter, every elder, every young person, every member of my Barbados Labour Party family. Good evening. Now I'm a church lad, and one of my favorite verses comes from Philippians 4, verse 6 to 8. It simply says, be anxious for nothing, but with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, make your requests known unto God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts through Jesus Christ. And I am not finished there. Because the word of God also says that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength, and they shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not fail. And the Lord has taught me this evening to wait, to wait, to wait. And I know if my Uncle Lorton was here, Lorton Moore, he would be clapping this evening. So tonight, this evening, I not only wish to formally accept your nomination, but I wish to publicly thank those who have walked this journey with me. I want to thank my team, the A-team, my canvassers, my soldiers. We have walked this constituency. And guess what? We now have to walk it again. You have been behind me from day one. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. To my family, Mom, Dad, you keep me grounded. You remind me who I am and who I must never forget. To my friends, thank you for keeping it real with me. To my Wesleyan Holiness family, thank you for praying and lifting me up. To my branch family, to my BLP family, thank you for embracing me and believing in my leadership potential. Anthony, where are you? Joe Riley, where are you? Corsi Holder, Hugh Springer, Olive Small, Rawl Holder, Delors, the elders of this great branch, the ancestral home of the Barbados Labour Party, thank you for embracing me from day one. Carrie Ann, Melissa, Princess, Shakina, all of you, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And then, as a sentimental person, I have to thank those who are not with me. Bush, Felly, my Uncle Lorton, I cannot and I will not have made it without you. Tonight, I want to express gratitude to the Honorable Dale Marshall. Clap for that, man. For 22 years, he has carried this constituency with dignity and devotion. He protected his party's presence, both in opposition and in government. And he represented this constituency faithfully and built the foundation that I am standing on today. It was 15 years ago in the St. John by-election that Dale whispered to me, I want you to consider elective politics. And from that day until now, I have enjoyed his unwavering support and encouragement. And as he prepares to pass the baton today, because I'm an athlete, I know how to take a baton. And let me tell you something, I don't drop batons neither. I am committed and ready to continue the work. To my Prime Minister, Mayor Amor Motley, thank you for your support and guidance. Even on this journey, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So now that protocol has been established, let us get down to brass tacks. St. Joseph is not a place that I discovered through politics. Hackerton's Cliff is my home. My vision for my community is centered around ideas that not anybody has to tell me about. These are centered around my experiences. We have to begin by strengthening our infrastructure. We understand full well that progress is happening in St. Joseph. We are seeing progress. You don't believe me? We are seeing roads being paved. We are seeing bridges being repaired. Up today, we saw Mayor's Corner being paved. Just now we can see the reopening of Lanes Bridge. That's true, Pat? Correct. We're going to get this work done. But while I acknowledge that progress is happening, I also want to be honest with you in saying that a lot more has to be done. We in St. Joseph deserve good infrastructure. We deserve proper roads. We deserve Melvin's Bridge to be fixed. And yes, we know that our government is working for us, but sometimes we believe that it's not working fast enough. And we need to continue to put our hands to the plow and ensure that our voices are heard. We need to see progress in terms of our infrastructure. As a young man, I have to lobby for the creation of opportunities for young people. Our young people need to have access to programs and projects that they can be able to realize their full potential. sporting potential, entrepreneurial potential. We have to ensure that these programs are not just centered in town, but we have to bring these programs to St. Joseph. That is the only way that we can unlock the potential of our young people living right here in this rural constituency. You may have to dim this light. We don't want to blame anybody in here tonight. St. Joseph is a collection of remote villages. We are a vast constituency. We encompass St. George, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Andrew. We are a vast constituency. And we have to ensure that every single person develops at the same pace. The issues that the persons in Mount Wilton face may not be the issues that somebody in Branchbury faces. We have to ensure that as we rise together. And by doing that, we have to ensure that all the basic amenities that other people across Barbados enjoy are brought to St. Joseph. We deserve reliable transportation. We deserve clean running water. We deserve garbage collection that is reliable as well. And my type of representation, I pledge to you, will be responsive. I pledge to be visible. I pledge to be active. And I pledge to be just one phone call away. And I am proud to be joining the Barbados Labour Party family that has done more than any other government since independence in this country. You need to clap for that. I am joining the team that restored free education to the young people of this country. I am joining a team that has given more wage increases than any other government since independence. And these are the things that we need to celebrate. I am joining a team that provided trust loans for people in this country to start a business no matter how small. And these are the transformative policies that the Labour Party has given to the people of Barbados. And what it says, one good term, two good terms deserves another. I can go on and on and on this evening, but my time is short. And as we prepare to step forward this evening, I'm going to go back to the Bible because that's where I started. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Tonight, I claim that promise for St. Joseph. God has plans to prosper St. Joseph. God has plans to uplift St. Joseph. God has plans to give us hope and to give us a future. And with your strength, and with your partnership, and with your trust, I intend to work every single day to make this plan a reality. Thank you. God bless the Barbados Labour Party. God bless St. Joseph. We will rise together.
They just can't stop you now, Ryan. People will say this and that. They just can't stop you now. St. Joseph, you done. Even when they set up roadblocks, they just can't stop you now. Even when they set up their traps, they just can't stop you now. Sure. Him rise above all the nice, uplift to the youth them voice. Come inside to the roadside, everybody be joyous. Community first, Ryan him, make him choice. St. Joseph in the future, him a live with ox and pies. Solid as a rock, just can't stop you now. Yeah, people will say this and that, just can't stop you now. Hey, 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 hey. When we sing, they can't keep watch on.
Persons that there are seats here on this balcony as well. So if you want to go up there and sit down and watch the thing properly, you're invited to go upstairs here to my left. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades, St. Joseph Massive, BLP family, good night. My name is Romel Springer, and I hail from the constituency of St. Andrew. My role here this evening is simple. Of course, as the night goes on, I will share some of my thoughts with Ryan, seeing as our paths are similar. But at this moment, it is my honor to introduce to you a man whose life has been marked by steady service, unwavering loyalty, and an unbroken commitment to the Barbados Labour Party and the people of St. Joseph and Barbados, the Honorable Dale Marshall. Dale's journey with this great party began in July of 1986, when he was first proposed for membership. The next year, he will celebrate an extraordinary milestone, 40 years, 4 decades, as a proud member of the Barbados Labour Party. And that alone speaks volumes of his dedication to the cause. He started in the St. George South Branch, quickly becoming the branch National Council representative. But even though he later joined the St. George North Branch, many will agree that his heart and closest political connection was with the St. Andrew branch. Yep. We did. And for reasons well known to anyone familiar with his deep association with George Payne, my predecessor. Professionally, Dale qualified as an attorney at law in 1989 and immediately joined the law chambers of George Payne. That placed him squarely in the center of political life in St. Andrew during George's candidacy. In fact, he was so active and so present that people began to whisper that he would someday succeed George Payne in St. Andrew. Ha. Thankfully for me, Dale paid no attention to those whispers and instead seized the opportunity to serve the people of St. Joseph when Johnny Cheltenham stepped away from elective politics in 2003, a decision that has shaped the history of this constituency and the Barbados Labour Party. But Dale's preparation for public life began long before he ever entered the House of Assembly. Following the BLP's victory in 1994, he was appointed chairman of the National Housing Corporation. In 1997, he became the first chairman of the newly established Urban Development Commission. After the 1999 election, Prime Minister Owen After appointed him to the Senate, and shortly thereafter, Dale became chairman of the Barbados Tourism Authority. In each role, whether in housing, urban development, tourism, or community work, Dale represented the interests of Barbados with distinction, both at home and on the international stage. Then came the year 2003. Having earned the confidence of the St. Joseph branch and the wider constituency, Dale won the hotly contested nomination, and not long after, secured victory in the general election against Randall Rouse, something that, Ryan, you will have to do again shortly. Must happen again, must continue. That's one rich tradition that you must continue. That's how Dale started, and that's how you will start, by defeating Randall Rouse. This began a 22-year journey of parliamentary service that stands as one of the most remarkable in modern Barbados politics. And let us record this for the history books. Dale Marshall holds the distinction of winning 5 consecutive general elections in St. Joseph, the most consecutive victories ever achieved in this constituency. You must clap for that. Now, he may say that this record means nothing to him. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But what I would say to you, Ryan, this record shows that you have some very, very big boots to fill. So you know you have your work cut out for you. But I can see that you have made a good start. Dale has served this party and this country with honor for Minister of Industry and International Business between 2003 to 2006, to succeeding the Honorable Mayor Amor Motley as Attorney General. He carried the weight of national responsibility through good times and through difficult ones. He served as Attorney General until 2008, and again from 2018 to present, guiding policy, strengthening institutions, and defending the rule of law. Today, as we prepare to hand over the baton to young Ryan Braffett, we acknowledge a man who has given nearly 4 decades to the Barbados Labour Party, 22 years of uninterrupted service to the people of St. Joseph, and a lifetime of commitment to the betterment of Barbados. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing and welcoming the Honorable Dale Marshall, a stalwart of Barbados Labour Party, a pillar of public service, and a
Good evening, Barbados Labour Party family. This is a bittersweet moment. Jerome Walker taking bets that I'm going to cry. In a way, I almost feel like a person who is getting to go to his own funeral. But there's a time. If I was as good with Ryan as the Bible, I think I would quote Ecclesiastes. Help me, Ryan, or our bishop, where it says, to everything there's a season. Well, my season is coming to a close. But the good thing about a season is that there's always another season after that. And Ryan Brathwaite, this young man who I met, I know his mother will be, please stand up. I want these people to see. That is the lady who has produced this fine young man. I met Ryan in 2002. At that time, I believe he was 13 or 14 years old. George Payne and I and my team were canvassing Hackleton's Cliff. And we went to the last house on the right-hand side. A very modest home. And Ryan's mom came out and greeted me and George. And somebody had whispered that I was a Commonwealthian. So she dragged out this little boy from inside the house, who was also a Commonwealthian, to meet me. I shook his hand, I looked into his face, and from that day on, I stayed in touch with Ryan Brathwaite. I can't take credit for anything that he has become, but I am overjoyed that my stepping aside is making a place for him to represent you. So on the 17th of October, just gone, I put my pen to paper and wrote perhaps the hardest letter I had to write in my life. And I wrote the Most Honorable Reginald Farley, the President of the Barbados Labour Party, and informed him that I will not be standing as a candidate in the coming general election. It was a hard letter to write, but it was a letter whose time had come. But it was also a time that we have been preparing for in the St. Joseph branch, because a good year and a half ago, we sat down at Wonderful Hillcrest around the table and started to strategize what our next steps would be to keep St. Joseph red. That is how we do our business, governed by clear rules and transparently. The people of St. Joseph have chosen the individual who will represent the party in the next election. But I am equally confident that the people of St. Joseph will choose the individual to represent all of this constituency in the House of Assembly. As I said, this is a difficult time, and I propose just to perhaps thank all of the individuals who made this journey possible. But I can't help but go back to, as close as I can recollect, what I would call the beginning of my real political life. And it was in August of 2002 when I received a call from Owen Arthur one Thursday afternoon. And he said to me, Senator Marshall, Johnny Cheltenham has decided not to run, and I want you to run for St. Joseph in the next election. What Owen Arthur did not tell me was that I would be coming up against the most formidable opponent that I would ever encounter. He did not tell me that there was a lady named Pat Paris who also wanted to run for this constituency. And Pat and I had the fight of our lives. Our branch swelled from barely 30 to about 1,600. We recruited all manner of people to come out in our nomination. I won the fight, but I also won a friend like no other. Pat, you were there at the beginning, and I'm so honored that you were on this stage with me tonight at the end, but also at a new beginning. And I remember clearly that day, 22 years ago, when Owen Arthur called me. I hung up from Owen and I walked straight to George Payne's office and I said, Owen called me and told me you want to run. And George said, and what you said? I said yes. My first call was then to a lady named Linda Headley Eno from Bathsheba to tell her that I intended to run in St. Joseph. My second call was to a lady named Dolores Thompson from Parks Road. Dolores had worked steadfastly with Johnny, and I knew that I could not come to St. Joseph unless I had her blessing. And the rest was history. George took over my campaign, and every day from then till the nomination, till the election, we walked the length and breadth of St. Joseph. And many of you received me at your houses purely because of that little short man. To tell the truth, many a time I would go and knock on the door, take a deep breath, ready to open and start my speech, and the household will open and say, wait, George Payne, that you? And all of a sudden, I was irrelevant, I was ignored, I didn't matter. George Payne was at their door. But you know what? The door got open. And as long as the door get open, red going in. It wasn't always an easy journey. And as Victor Trevor Sylvester Grant said in his campaign speech, because I feel that Victor warming up for the election, that he only talked about Rand in 2 sentences. The rest, he started to, anyway. Victor talked about being a Josephine. And you know, when I first came to St. Joseph, I got a lot of flack about that. People said, well, he ain't a Josephine. And another stalwart, now deceased, Calvin Marshall, came to my defense and said, Grantley Adams ain't a Josephine neither. But that didn't put an end to the discussion. But if there's one thing, and only one thing, that Rand Braffett will have on me, is that he's a Josephine. But I am happy to be able to leave St. Joseph in the hands of one of your own. That should be our greatest ambition. The beginning was hard. In my first election, 2003, I won by 77 votes. But I win. So, for any of you who barely get home, the important thing is to get home, Kerry. And I had the privilege of working under Oenatha and seeing what cabinet government was, having Jerome and so many others, the Honorable Prime Minister Mia, Billy, Ronald Topping, George Payne, all of us in cabinet. Well, not George, but a lot of us were in cabinet. And I had the privilege of working with them. And in 2008, despite the lowest unemployment figures and a booming economy, the people of Barbados decided they wanted no more of the Barbados Labour Party. They were going with the Dems. And I remember seeing a candidate in that election, and he said to me, man, say if you deposit, you can get beat bad. Well, that candidate lost. I didn't. But in the words of a journalist, I barely won by 2 packs of cigarettes because I won by 44 votes. Now, Mr. Chairman, Mr. General Secretary, I know that my time is limited, but I feel that I should take this opportunity to say to my colleagues, on my behalf and on all of your behalf, those of you who ran and won for the first time in 2018 were the luckiest people in the world. You won, I'm not saying you didn't fight. We all had to fight. But we had the benefit of a tsunami that was going in the other direction. It was a tsunami that was washing out the Dems. And all of us got 3,000 and 4,000 votes. But I'll tell you this, you will only understand what it means to get 3,000 votes when you had to live with 44. So for those of you who think that you're on top of the hill, and you're right to think that, but as I am making my way out, I want to remind you that at the bottom of a hill is something called a valley. And it is in that valley that you find the 44 votes. And unless you get those 44, you can't get 45. You can't get 48. You can't get 50. You can't get 2,000. You can't get 3,000. All I'm trying to say is you always have to start small and add. Mr. Chairman, my tenure in St. Joseph has been a wonderful experience. I would not trade it for the world. It has been difficult. There are some people who, I regret to say, probably don't speak to me now because the daughter didn't get a job, because they didn't get the house spot they were hoping for, because something happened that we didn't expect. But through it all, I am able to say that the overwhelming majority of the experiences that I got were uplifting, were kind, were from people who were generous and kind-hearted. I would not trade any of you for $1 million. Some of you, Arrington Massey, I suppose I could say it in this audience, Arrington Massey, who was known to be a staunch supporter of the other side, Charles. You can't find a stauncher supporter. It was the most curious thing in the world to see Arrington Massey at a funeral canvassing for the dance. It's really strange. But he so came to respect me and my team in St. Joseph that he referred to two of them as my angels, Barbara and Linda. You know, we may win, but without angels like you, we are nothing. You see, we can't be everywhere as MPs at the same time. And it is those angels that are often the first point of contact for a troubled constituent. And I had 1 million angels, and all of them, I want to thank this evening. Politics is a tough game. I'm sure you've all heard somebody reflect that. When you win, they say, we win. Right, Reggie? We win, man. Man, we win. When you lose, man, he gone and lost. He gone and lost. They say victory has many fathers, but defeat only has one. I have been fortunate never to have had anybody say anything other than we. Ryan, this is about we. And I gladly hand over this baton to you. And I want to assure you that I will be so far back from you that the spotlight will always be yours. But I cannot leave St. Joseph. So even though I will be behind you, making sure that the spotlight is yours, always be assured that I will be close enough to reach out a hand to support you in your journey. There's a lot more that has to be done. In a sense, I can say without fear of contradiction that the constituency of St. Joseph has finally begun to get its fair share of the national pie. People, and for those of you who are visiting, let me tell you something that you might not know. The constituency of St. Joseph is all of the parish of St. Joseph. It is a piece of St. Andrew, a piece of St. Thomas, a piece of St. George, and a piece of St. John. So, you know, when it's National Independence Festival, I just have parish ambassadors from 5 parishes coming to me saying, you gotta give me a little something. But that's all right. But the point I'm making is that this has been a challenging constituency to represent. It is vast. Our terrain is difficult. There are a lot of little villages. And when you've experienced it, now you spend the whole day in Clareberry, and then somebody from Fisher Pond will say, but you don't be in St. Joseph. And then you spend the day in Fisher Pond, somebody in Bashir can say, well, I see, and I'm not leaving tomorrow. And I'm not leaving tomorrow. Because I don't know when the Prime Minister may call the election. She may call it 2027. If that's the case, Ryan, you got a lot of time to walk about. But during however much time I have left, I give you the assurance that I will continue to do what I've been doing for 22 years, advocating relentlessly for your interests. Not for me, but for you, and for the benefit of Ryan, who is coming to succeed me. You've seen some of the things happening, and I know that you have. And there are a few people who want to go on the Carlin program every day, and complain that nothing don't happen in St. Joseph. We can't get this, we can't get that. And I have a feeling that those people don't live in St. Joseph, so they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know when Horsell was getting paved. They wouldn't know what we're doing in Erie Hill. They wouldn't know. But you and I know. Whatever work is left to be done, I will do my very best until the election comes. But on the day that the election comes, I will proudly stand beside this young man and say, over to you, do a good job. I would like to thank so many people, but the list will be too long, and I wouldn't want to call names because I may leave out somebody. You see Antoinette already? So there's a danger in that. But there are some highlights. There's some highlights that stand out to me. There's a gentleman here who flew home, interrupted a trip in the US. He was overseas doing things on business, and he flew home the day before election day. He vote election day, fly back out election day. You can imagine that? A man buy a plane ticket to interrupt his business overseas, fly back the day before, vote for the Barbados Labour Party, vote for me, and fly back to continue. We have support. Never forget it. We have support. But equally, don't fool ourselves. Because when the contest was at its deepest, my opponent in the Democratic Labour Party used to come within 100 votes of me. I told you my first was by 77, second was by 44, my third election, well, it was getting into the 300s. St. Joseph is not a constituency that I've taken for granted, and it is one that the Barbados Labour Party can never take for granted. It is not only the ancestral home of the Labour Party, it is one of the seats that has remained true to the Labour Party, except for one occasion, and that is when Maisie Barker Welch won in 89 or 86, somewhere back there. The Barbados Labour Party has a good heritage in this constituency. I am proud that for 22 years I have been able to carry the flag. But my arms are now getting a little tired. And I must say, the feet, as young and as sturdy as I am, the feet carry has a little trouble walking some of them hills. Perhaps if I were St. Michael MP, I could stick around longer, but try walking up and down Mellows, and you would understand what I mean. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to stop because I fear that Jerome might be right. And I would never give Jerome the satisfaction of seeing Dale Marshall cry. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. They can make it worse, you know. You remember as a child, when your mother asked you, "Were you crying for you starting to cry more?" Now they come to mess me up now. I remember standing here, don't move back. I remember standing here in 2002 when Johnny Cheltenham gave his farewell speech. I didn't see it in my future. but it's now my turn to give mine. I hope sincerely that you have no regrets having had me as your MP. I certainly have no regrets having been your MP. And I leave you with just this. When I came to St. Joseph, I found constituents. I leave St. Joseph with friends.
Let's give a rousing round of applause to the Honorable Dale Marshall.
Let me go.
Well done, my brother. Well done, well done, well done. For all that you've done and continue to do for this great constituency of St. Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go on, I have a few announcements. Will the drivers of the following vehicles please move your cars immediately? XB2937, G8016, J3597, H1902, E5653, P1778, GA3187, and S1315. Please attend to moving your cars immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce our next speaker, and we have a number of speakers who will speak to you this evening, I also want to take the opportunity to also thank Comrade Marshall and Comrade Brathwaite, who in May of this year, every single day during my by-election came to St. James North, Team St. Joseph, of course, all of you, but in particular, Team St. Joseph, they came and they pounded the pavement, house to house, shop to shop, church to church, and ensured that Team Labour Party came home and bring home the bacon for St. James North. And I want to publicly thank both of you for your sterling work and contribution in securing St. James North for the party. But I also have the distinct honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you now, as you've heard and seen this evening, a lady who self-describes and is proud as a proud Josephine. A senator, a woman who is not just the CEO of our great party, but who understands every aspect and organ of the Barbados Labour Party. A woman who you can call at any time and she'll respond. A woman who dedicates her life to not just St. Joseph, but to the Barbados Labour Party and its governance and ensuring that we can continue to do the business of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct pleasure now to invite to the podium and to speak to you none other than your Josephine sister, Senator Pat Parry.
To my BLP family, and I welcome all of you to St. Joseph. I have the authority to do that. When Labour leads, we Bajans succeed. You, my good people of St. Joseph, can testify to that. From 2008 to 2018, you were abandoned by the Democratic Labour Party government. Don't let us forget the water woes you faced under a DLP government. In opposition, the Barbados Labour Party, with our leader at the time, our opposition leader, Mia Amor Motley, heard your cries. She saw firsthand in December 2015 what the people of St. Joseph were going through. She said to you then, if you give me the opportunity to govern the country, your water woes will be a thing of the past. The BLP came to office in 2018. And in December 2021, the reservoir at Castle Grant was commissioned, and your water was a thing of the past. The Barbados Labour Party government did that. The people from St. John, St. Thomas, they benefited from that reservoir. You heard Mr. Dale Marshall saying that he covers 5 constituencies. Well, St. Thomas and St. John benefited from that reservoir. My friends, the people of St. Joseph had to catch 3 buses to go to the David Thompson Polyclinic. You know why? Because the Democratic Labour Party abandoned the outpatient clinic at Horse Hill. This BLP government, under the leadership of Honorable Mia Motley, who had behind her your parliamentary representative, Dale Marshall, ensured that the polyclinic was open, the outpatient clinic was open at Horse Hill in St. Joseph. In May 2021, when the outpatient clinic was open, they had more space. You had podiatry and clinics, you had free Wi-Fi, you had more space, like I said, and the clinic had a pharmacy there as well. This clinic is now open 4 days a week under a Barbados Labour Party government. Comrades, the Dems again abandoned the community center at Bathsheba for a number of years. In June 2022, a BLP government completed and opened the Hillcrest Community Center. This is not only a tourist attraction. We have people from all over Barbados coming there to take in the view, the breathtaking view at Hillcrest. The BLP government did not do road repairs in the parish of St. Joseph for years. Yes, we still have roads that need to be repaired, and there are going to be ongoing by this road repairs by this government. And we are committed to ensuring that you have better roads to drive on. As I speak, Lane Bridge will soon be open. It was paved and the Sugar Hill area was being paved today. So things are happening in St. Joseph. The area, Hill Bottom, massive work is being done there to get that road open. This work was long overdue because the Democratic Labour Party neglected the roads and the people of St. Joseph for years. The residents of St. Joseph benefited when this government bought the new electric buses. These buses brought an end to persons having to wait in the bus terminal and the bus stops for hours. Under a DLP government, there were only 43 buses to service the whole of Barbados. Today, we can boast that of total of 139 buses, 86 of which are electric. This is something we should all be proud of. Presently, the bus system is not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it was under the tenure of the Democratic Labour Party. At Ginger Work, we had our first housing development since 2004. And that is when the Barbados Labour Party came to office in 2018. This government came to office in 2018, and you in St. Joseph can attest to the work that was done during those 7 years and compare what was done by the Dems who were in office for 10 years. What I can say is that one of the things the Democratic Labour Party did when they first came to office was to stop the work at the pavilion in Prout. They stopped the work. So that is why the pavilion at Prout is not yet completed. And with a Barbados Labour Party government, when you elect Ryan Braffett, he will ensure that that pavilion is completed. So don't listen to them when they say that St. Joseph is being neglected by the Barbados Labour Party. Tell them the facts and compare how you suffered when they were in power. The water woes, the long waits at the bus terminal and bus stops, the roads that were not done during their tenure, how they abandoned the polyclinic and community center. They stopped the pavilion, no repairs to this school for years. And I'm so sure as you walked in here this evening, you saw the difference under a BLP government and a board that is at work. I could go on and go on, but my time is limited. As you know, we honor our pledges, and this government will continue to provide a better life for you, the good people of St. Joseph. We did it before, and we will do it again. I often say the people of St. Joseph are fortunate to have two representatives. I can see a number of people in this audience this evening who have either called me for assistance or guidance, and I never once said to them, I am not your representative. I helped them, and I did not do it without the representative, Dale Marshall, being aware. I called him each time I assisted someone. Trust me when I say to you that Ryan is a young gentleman who is grounded and have helped many people in St. Joseph and across Barbados. He is a people's person, and that is one of the qualities of a good politician. So St. Joseph, Ryan is ready and willing to serve and work in your interest. Quite unlike the opponent, he did not hop from NDP to DLP to independent and now lands back at the Democratic Labour Party. I will tell you more about him and the DLP on another occasion. Enough said about him. This evening, I want to say to you, Ryan, that I have a special relationship with Dale Marshall since 2003. And I consider him to be my brother. Ryan, I am pledging my support to you and the people of St. Joseph who are near and dear to me. As I look forward to developing such a relationship with you and working with you the same way I did with Dale for the people of this parish. My fellow Josephines, at a meeting, a public meeting in 2003 in Laming, St. Joseph, I said to you then, a vote for Dale Marshall is a vote for Pat Paris, and I am sure you have no regrets. Tonight at this nomination meeting, I am once again saying to you, a vote for Ryan Braffett and the Barbados Labour Party is a vote for Pat Paris. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, and I look forward to working with you to ensure that Ryan Braffett walk up those steps on Parliament whenever the election is called. I thank you.
Comrades, I want to take this opportunity to say a few words to Ryan before I introduce the next speaker. It's going to be very quick. When I first entered Parliament at the table, I think it was at the lunch table, the Marshal said to me, he said, Ramel, me and George had a good relationship. We worked together, we helped each other. And now you are here. I want a similar relationship with you. He told me that. And Ryan, now that Dale is moving on and you have taken over, I want you to know that I want to have that same relationship with you. Your people will be my people, and mine is yours. Remember that. Now, St. Joseph is not only connected by love and by fellowship. Just like St. Andrew, St. Joseph is connected by roads and bridges. The next speaker that I want to introduce to you here tonight will take you on a journey that highlights the work that was done not only here in St. Joseph, but throughout the Scotland district. Show how she has been responsible for modernizing the infrastructure in the Scotland district. She'll show the work that we've been doing as a ministry to ensure that you have proper, resilient infrastructure, smooth roads. When I came out here, I drove up Coggins Hill. And those in my car were surprised how smooth that road is. Came up Horse Hill, smooth road, proper roads. And the person who is responsible for that will speak to you shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades all, I want to introduce to you the Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Santia Bradshaw, Minister of Transport and Works.
Tell me what we need. Forward.
My comrade and my friend.
Tell me where we heading.
Forward. When Lebanese Belgians succeed.
Good night, St. Joseph. Well, when I was coming up the road, I was beginning to feel like the campaign start. So apart from announcing Ryan as the next candidate for St. Joseph tonight, and no doubt soon to be the duly elected representative, I want the Prime Minister come in to tell us some other things tonight, but it may be wishful thinking. Anyhow, y'all are looking good. It's always good to see the sea of red. Tonight is a bittersweet feeling because I feel as though I am saying goodbye to a stalwart of the party, somebody that I have worked very closely with, somebody that I know has given his life and his passion to the people of St. Joseph. but also to national duty and national service. And in that, you all know I am talking about none other than Dale Marshall. Dale has been somebody that no matter what is happening in St. Joseph, and a lot has been happening in St. Joseph, y'all have been affected by broken bridges. You have been affected by roads that have been in need of rehabilitation. This constituency has had issues from the time we came to office in relation to water. And I can tell you that no matter what portfolio I have held, Dale Marshall has been that voice ringing in my ears and on my cell phone, reminding me that the people of St. Joseph must never be neglected. And I know that at times for the people of St. Joseph, sometimes you tell yourself that you are a rural parish, that nobody ain't checking for winter, that things are not happening fast enough. But I come here tonight to just take a little time to explain a few things as to why I ask you to just be a little bit more patient, because St. Joseph is not like the rest of the rural parishes of this country. Your representative, Dale Marshall, was on the forefront of understanding that St. Joseph was different from the others. And back in 2018, when we came to office, it was him and certainly the former representative for St. Andrew, George Payne, who were on the forefront of making sure that the Barbados Labour Party administration in its infancy came to office with a view to making sure that we were able to get $230 million to be able to put into the Scotland District, a project that we refer to as the Scotland District Road Rehabilitation Project. Now, as everybody would know, we can't get the money today, sign the paperwork, and all of a sudden, miraculously, work is going to suddenly be started the very next day. But what your MP Dale Marshall did is made sure that the roads that were of high priority in the Scotland District, and in particular in St. Joseph, were prioritized to ensure that we started to do what is referred to as the preliminary design work. Because what that means is that you first have to assess the roads, you have to determine the level of the slippage. You have many of you down here, I don't know how St. Joseph does it, because today you will see trees and houses, and tomorrow you wake up and the coconut trees are no longer there because of the nature of the soil. But the type of people that you are, you love your community and you love where you live, and the Barbados Labour Party has been determined, just as it has been in White Hill and King Street, that so long as we can find the engineering people to be able to assist us to get the works done in the Scotland District, and in particular in St. Philip and St. Andrew, that we have committed ourselves to so doing. So my colleague Rommel and I, with Dale in our ears constantly, set about on a journey to make sure that every single road that had been identified and every single bridge that was identified by Dale was able to be attended to over the course of the last few years that we have been responsible for MTW. And that assessment has taken place on every, I can stand here tonight and tell you, every single area highlighted by Dale has been assessed by the engineers. As you can see, and I heard Pat speak to it, I heard Dale speak to it, work has begun in a number of areas in St. Joseph. In one way or the other, either you will see for yourselves as you drive through, roads have been paved, you will see that works have been started, that gabion work has been started on a number of the roads. But I assure you that it is not a simple process to be able to get these roads repaired. And if you look on a map of St. Joseph, you will see that all of the trouble spot areas in St. Joseph are in and around the same areas where slippage is being experienced. So if you take Spar Hill is one where there are not a lot of residents, but it is off-road. So even when we start to do the design work and we start to move ahead with actually doing the works in the Spar Hill area, regrettably, the average person driving along in St. Joseph will not see the work that is being done in the St. Joseph area. But we have already started the design work. We have determined that we're not going to be able to do the entire work straight through the belly of Spa Hill. And by the belly, I speak of the middle of the area on the road going into the Spa Hill area. And why? Because we recognize that the level of slippage there is likely to continue, and it is likely to continue to the point where we may end up losing lives or even property homes to the vagaries of the slippage in the Scotland district. But what we have not done is said, we're not going to do it. This administration has said, even if the task is difficult, we're going to find a way around getting the works done, and we're going to ensure that we start the process. When you take places like Melvin Hill Bridge, this is the one that recently has given us some licks, because even though we have been at the stage of the final stage of actual being able to go to construction, what we could not control in MTW was the weather. And many of you know that when a little rain set up, the one place in this country that can get rain is the parish of St. Joseph. So we have been impacted over and over as we get ready to gear up on the programs in St. Joseph, with the fact that sometimes we are working against more intense weather and rainfall falling for longer periods, which then has compromised structures that ordinarily we may have been able to take a few months or a few more years to get to. And I take the time to explain it to you tonight because Ryan is going to inherit the same issues that Dale inherited, where the people of St. Joseph often feel that nothing ain't going on. When we went into Vaughan's Road, when we first started the Scotland District project, Vaughan's Road is off in a side road. Nobody don't see it. So if you don't see it, you don't believe that we've done any work. But I can tell you that for the people in that area who have disabilities, the people who didn't have the lighting before, the people who the road was rocky, and as Prime Minister has described, it was practically a cart road where people got to get 2 pairs of shoes to be able to get out of the area. If you drive off the main road and you go into that area now, you will find that there has been a vast improvements in the road structure within that particular area. And that was one of the first roads that we did along with Shorey Village under the Scotland District Road Rehabilitation Project. But you know, Bajans, if you can't see it and if you can't feel it, sometimes you feel that nothing is happening. A popular one, though, that you all know well is the East Coast Road. Many of us go there for our picnic, and we will return there, no doubt, in April of next year. So we've seen the improvement on the East Coast Road. And if you go down to East Coast Road now, you will also see the further improvement in terms of the additional works that are now taking place to replace the water mains and to ensure that we can continue the works in that area to bring improvement to a major road that all of us, not just the people of St. Joseph use, but all of us at some point traverse. So right now we have Airy Hill ongoing. We have Melvin Hill ongoing. And for those who have asked, well, why we can't get back the road right away, the reality is that while that bridge has been there for a very long time, we're actually having to build a bypass road. And by bypass, I'm talking about a temporary road to allow us to be able to move infrastructure over so we can build the retaining structure back. Because when you have critical infrastructure like that that breaks, it doesn't give us notice. It doesn't tell us, go out and tell the utility companies to put some utilities across the side of the road so that we can build back a better structure. And it requires the coordination of the various utilities to be able to excavate to make sure that the temporary bypass road is safe, to be able to make sure that the mains are replaced so people do not have a disconnection of water supply. It also requires us to make sure that the utilities are still provided to the residents of that area. So while we've been working on that, we've been trying to conclude as well the redevelopment of the area in terms of being able to make sure that those persons who live in the houses, while there may be some excavation works and stuff done, that if there's any damage to their homes, that we are able to adequately compensate as the need arises. I want you to understand, people of St. Joseph, there is no neglect by this Barbados Labour Party administration. There has been no neglect by the honorable member and representative of St. Joseph, Mr. Dale Marshall. And I have no doubt in my mind, because every step of the way that I have seen Dale messaging me and coming to various site visits, Ryan Brathwaite has been by his side. So I am telling you tonight that when Ryan takes up the mantle, Ryan already has been briefed. The lawyer has already briefed the junior counsel, because he knows what he is in for, and he has not backed off. He has not said that this job is going to be too difficult for me, but instead, Ryan has been there every step of the way. You will see him assessing the damage, asking the questions, trying to update himself to make sure that he understands what he has to do in order to carry on. The other areas that we also have on the program, you have the Highway 3, the area of St. Elizabeth. That is also ongoing. You have Fruitful Hill and Coconut Grove. And these two roads in particular, these were roads that we did not actually have designs in place for. And I certainly, and Ramel, drove these roads and recognized that the ministry needed to pause, because I don't want any accidents. I don't want nobody to say that the road was too steep, which we both recognized it was. And we went back to the drawing board to make sure that we had the appropriate designs in hand to do Fruitful Hill and Coconut Grove. So for those of you who live in those two areas, you may be telling yourself, well, it's taking a little long, because these are all roads that help you to traverse from one part of St. Joseph to the other. But what we made sure to do is to enable us to be in a position that we had the correct designs. Please welcome the Honorable Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley. People, so I just want to let you understand that when we talk about these two roads, Coconut Grove and Fruitful Hill, they've been going on for a long time in terms of your waiting. But to assure you tonight that those roads have they've been awarded to contractors, and I expect that those design works will get, with the actual contract works will get started very soon, to be able to make sure that Ryan will now have the responsibility of taking care of those two roads in the foreseeable future. We also had to touch on some bridges, because the problem with the rainfall is that it has impacted on the construction of our bridges. And we have seen both at Lanes Bridge, which is, I can tell you, it has been paved. We are in a position that hopefully by next week we can complete all of the works, get all of the accommodation works completed, and we will be in a position to be able to open back up Lanes Bridge fully to the public. Again, it has taken longer than expected, but the key factors of the delay has been the rain, and in some cases making sure that we get the gabion works completed to allow us to be able to open the road safely. For those who know what that road looked like before, the amount of excavation that has had to take place in that area has been phenomenal. But we have done so because the one thing that Dale continues to remind me about is the fact that the arteries into St. Joseph, if they are affected, if they break away, it imposes on the people of the constituency of St. Joseph, just like it does in St. Andrew. And it prevents people from being able to get home. It makes the routes longer for people to be able to traverse. But here's the thing. We can't fix all the roads at the same time. So we have had to prioritize some roads. We have had to explore the whole issue of shuttle services, because we have to stop a number of the buses at certain points because they cannot pass. And then we have to move to get smaller vehicles to be able to move people through the various communities. So we understand that it is an inconvenience in MTW, but I want you to understand as well that because of the nature of St. Joseph, having simple roads that are the key connectors to get to the various communities, when almost all of those roads start to break way, it places a stress on the ministry to be able to have to fix all of these roads at the same time. Also ongoing is Gags Hill. We are at the design detail stage, and again, Dale has been shadowing that process. St. Sylvan is also at design stage, and when I say design stage, it means that the very next stage is to move to the construction of those specific areas. We have also looked at the Tampa Bay area, the Tampa Bay Bridge, and we've come up with a way to be able to redesign the Tampa Bay Bridge, where we're going to have a little bit of disruption with the transport board, but we're putting the measures in place to allow the people to be able to commute in that area. So you will probably find over the next few weeks, there's some announcements relating to a different turning where the buses, the larger buses will be, and then persons will get off on those areas and commute from the larger buses to go through the various communities. We also have Dark Hole Bridge, Coffee Gully, and most recently we had the structure at Branchbury that gave away. Now, it is not a straightforward way that we can correct it because we don't have a lot of space on the opposite side of the road. But while Ryan and Dale were with me, we looked at the possibility of asking the landowner to allow us to be able to use some of the agricultural land on the left-hand side, as we've done in other areas, to be able to allow the buses to be able to traverse on that side. So it's going to require some excavation, some digging out to make sure that we can flatten the area, make it safe, to allow that area to be, the retaining structure, the wall, to be rebuilt, while at the same time diverting the traffic to the other side of the road. And then you have Chimborazo. Chimborazo is another area as well that is also been assigned to the design teams, and we should shortly be in a position to have those works also carried out. We have completed today areas like Coggins, which Rommel and Dale share. We have completed Yearwood Road, Phillips Road, Suriname Road, and Highway 3, as Dale said earlier, in Horse Hill as well. So tonight my task is simple: to remind you, the people of St. Joseph, that you have not been forgotten. Because you do not see all the main arteries being done all at the same time does not mean that works in the parish of St. Joseph are not ongoing. This is a party that, when we had the issues in relation to the water issues and water shortages, Dale was at the forefront of making sure, and that he was in Prime Minister's ears to make sure that we corrected that problem. And I can stand here tonight proudly to say to you, the people of the Scotland District, and in particular St. Joseph, that this community has not been forgotten in any way, but it has taken time to be able to get us to a point where we've been able to design the roads to make them safer for the people of this country. As it relates to the buses, and I want to touch on that quickly, because we know that we have some challenges from time to time with the bus and the bus transportation. But here's the thing. The Prime Minister has already announced we are bringing another 35 buses. I can stand here tonight and tell you that by the middle of December, those buses will arrive in Barbados and add to our existing fleet. Because a promise made by this Barbados Labour Party administration is a promise kept. And we have not just stopped there. We have moved on to exploring how do we get the dedicated school bus system into the country. Because the biggest challenge for the people in the rural parishes is that we have tried to make sure that the existing bus fleet, that we pick up the old people and make sure that we get them to their destination, but our priority has often been getting our school children home. But the fact that we will have 35 additional buses, which no doubt after we make sure that we have everything in place and do the transition, by the beginning of next year, Madam Prime Minister, whenever you call the election, you will be on the platform and you will be able to tell the people, shh, and they will not be able to hear the buses passing through. Because we are making the promises, we are keeping the promises to the people, and equally, Ryan will be in a position to proudly be able to work with us to say, where do you need the improvements to the roads in this country to be able to make sure that the people of St. Joseph are properly serviced as we continue to make the transition with the Barbados Mass Transit Authority. So tonight, without any further ado, I want to hand over to the Honorable Prime Minister, the lady of the moment, the person who leads this country with vision. Let us all stand and welcome the Honorable Mayor Amor Motley.
Link up, push up, unity. Yeah. When labor leads, Belgium succeed. Loving the voice and the light we lead. Put something up in the air. One another do good indeed.
Look at people. Look at people in and look at people out. If you think you got people inside here, go outside and see how much you got outside. Wanna let you know that something happening that I don't know about. Wanna let you know that something happening that I don't know about. But I get the message fast. And I get the message so fast that I'm gonna have to go home and think about a few things tonight. I want to say, I here got a bad feedback, but anyhow, I want to say that it is a pleasure to be in the ancestral home of the Barbados Labour Party. And as a result of this being the ancestral home, I believe that it was the appropriate place from which we should start this journey to be able to prepare ourselves for whatever is to come. You know, St. Joseph Branch left Queen's Park having won the award for the best branch turnout and acted in full action at the end of October in the 86th annual conference. I have no doubt that the bridge from being the best branch to being the first constituency with a candidate is intended to show me a dignified path to victory whenever the time comes.
Oh Lord!
And I have come here to St. Joseph this evening recognizing that you have done your business already. You are not now trying to be able to settle and reconcile and do all of those things, but you have invited me to St. Joseph with a message that, Prime Minister, we in the parish of St. Joseph are ready. And like a good loyal servant of this country and this party, I am listening and I shall put it all in the mix. But suffice it to say that I always feel good when I can walk with a pep in my step and with a smile on my face and be able to hug and love so much that by the time we leave here, we are going to start a movement that is going to go straight across to St. Thomas in a few weeks. And then you are going to hear them come in, boom, 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 just like you will hear the votes on election night. Braffit, 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 braffit. And you and I know that while the most important thing is getting this part of the legal business out of the way, by the time Ryan leaves Grantley Adams School, I want this team in St. Joseph moving all across this parish, picking up people and telling them that you have seats and moving. There are seats in this Labour Party in St. Joseph, and the bus is moving. And when you do that, you are going to remind them that this is not an idle request for you to get on board this bus. Because I remember Dale and Pat in December 2016, December 31st, to be precise, when the people of St. Joseph went through horrors for months and months and months and months. And I came up here and I told Pat, when everybody else was preparing for New Year's and everything, look, try and get that man a red shirt until he come back inside here. You're coming in a white shirt today. He heard me when I said that the people in St. Joseph got seats and moving, but he knows that the Barbados Labour Party got seats and moving, and he joined the seats. Come inside, man, and let me get back to St. Joseph. And before I come back to St. Joseph, let me formally welcome Michael Lashley to the membership of the Barbados Labour Party. But as I was saying, when you get in that bus and we start to move across St. Joseph, remind them of December the 31st, 2016. We went to Boo Husband's shop. God bless Boo's soul. And Boo moved with us, Pat, Dale, across St. Joseph. And we listened to the people. And we heard the people. And that is why, in spite of being in an IMF program, in spite of being under the weather with respect to debt, this Barbados Labour Party government put the needs of the people of St. Joseph and St. John at the top of the list in order to be able to get water back into this parish. And you don't have to ask questions. You saw the reservoir that's been built at Castle Grant, which takes care of the supply for Eastern St. Joseph. And then we made sure that the upgrade in the small tank at Apes Hill could take care of Western St. Joseph. And while we know that we have had some isolated incidents in Sugar Hill, for the most part, this Labour Party has been able to make sure that that which was a perennial problem for the people of St. Joseph has been put behind us. Now I give this example because too often, as you just heard from Santi, and welcome Shaniqua as well to the Labour Party. I know that everybody is run from rats, so don't worry. Oh, Lord. I want to make a reference to the points that Santia made. Thank you. Take it on, take it on, take it on. Put on his shirt, Michael. You got a good-looking body. Santia reminded you that when it comes to roads, and I dare say, I need to tell you, when it comes to buses too, you can't just wake up overnight and see a road done. You get the financing. You have then, once that is in place, to hire the engineers who can do the designs. Then you have to get the designs through, and then you have to go to a public tender procurement process. Then you have to mobilize. So invariably, the length of time that it takes to do roads is not overnight. But I come here to give you the assurance as Minister of Finance that I have prioritized. We came out of the IMF program in June. And I have prioritized the infrastructure and the transport system along with the healthcare system in this country as getting the first claims besides the law and order. We all know law and order must get. But outside of that, we have so managed the affairs of this country that our debt is down, that our fiscal situation is strong, that I am still running primary surpluses to further pay down our debt to the point where our debt to GDP ratio is going now from 177% where we found it, and it's going to be double digit by the end of the year. That don't mean nothing to nobody, but you know what it means? That I could buy the 35 buses that Santia talked about. And I got another 35 being ordered come January that we will take hopefully by the middle of next year. And while that is there, I've said to Santia, the money that the Ministry of Education spends for school children to go on buses, the government will take that money and assign it to a program that allows us to have a dedicated school bus service, and we will go out to be able to find proposals for somebody to run that dedicated school bus service for us. And it is important not only to get children home on time, but for us to have better order and conduct of how we manage how our children are going to and from school, given all the challenges that they face as young people in this country today. So that is the buses. On the roads, Melvin Hill, they know that the bridge has to be done. But if we simply build back the old bridge, that's not going to help. And therefore, new designs are being done to build a wider and stronger bridge so that we don't end up in this situation 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now. Because the horror that I discovered is that the country has not addressed the maintenance of bridges in Barbados for over 40 years. So that we have a lot of ground to cover. In addition to that, you have had the Scotland District Road program dealing with a lot of roads that, as she said, are not in the main sight of people who are doing a tour down to Bathsheba and who have no reason to turn off Horace Hill and turn left into Vaughan's Road. But those roads being done. And I ask you to stay the course, because the truth is that the country went through a period of time when the country was broke. Broke. They had no money to do roads, ask Michael, none. But as a fact, and we have had to build back the reserves. We have had to build back the fiscal situation so that Santia and the Ministry of Public Works can now deliver the roads. And in addition to what has been voted this year, we have agreed, on top of what she would normally get, that she will get at least another $50 million to be able to carry out critical roads across this country. And the sad thing about it is that that decision was before the floods last Sunday night. And I can tell you that the floods last Sunday night, we are now counting the price. I was in St. Lucie this week on Monday, and I seen the damage it did there. And it wasn't only the roads across St. Lucie or St. George, and we once again express our sympathy to the family who lost their loved one in Charo Bridge in that flood. But we also, Indar will tell you, that a number of farmers were completely flooded out and are now without the produce that they were expecting to reap in the future to be able to support their families. So when, my friends, I talk to you about the climate crisis, I don't want to hear a soul tell me anything again. Today, as we speak, Liz Thompson is in Brazil as they conclude COP30, recognizing that the policies that we follow and the arguments that Barbados has been leading the world in is what allows us to get access to either grant money or low concessional interest rates. The Green Climate Fund has given us over $200 million in projects. And when Ralph Thorne tried to challenge me on my travel, I listed out for him all of the benefits, because to my certain knowledge, there is not a prime minister who has ever collected that level of grant money for Barbados since independence, in fact, since cabinet government. And it is that money that is helping us to beef up the water authority and to do other things that are critical in this country to be able to deliver for Bajans. But when you leave the bus and you stop looking at the roads and you stop looking at the water that we do, and the bus decide to go up by Ginger Works, what you can see? The beginning of a new housing development, 16 acres purchased in order to provide housing for the people of St. Joseph. And I say to you that if you ever had a problem and you hurt your foot, Dale made sure that the old clinic that was falling down and out of service, right there at the top opposite Tamarind Hall, that the Barbados Labour Party government has repaired that clinic and the one in Belle Plaine, Rommel, for you. So that this government has been a government that has been working against all the odds. Yes, COVID came and licked the stuffings out of us. I ain't fool nobody, because for 2.5 years, virtually all capital works came almost to a halt. And the government had to take the money. First of all, you were earning less money because businesses ain't working in COVID. And then you had to take and spend more money, as Jerome would tell you, because in the hospital, the assumptions that you could make before, once we started to have to apply physical distancing and moving around and all of that, it meant that you had to be spending significantly more money in the Ministry of Health, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and indeed the hospital that we developed at Harrison's Point to protect the average Bajan who had to go in the QEH. But in spite of all of that, we have not taken off our eyes off of doing as much as we can, when we can, in order to be able to move the people. And the significant point for me is that the spirit of St. Joseph people held firm. And there's no better example of that than to see what happened earlier this week when the case which Gregory Nichols, and I want to salute Gregory for taking the case and working on behalf of the people of St. Joseph, when the people came and indeed, my friends, made sure that with the courage of Victor Lewis and Christopher Oliver, that case went before the High Court. Because this is a country that works, and this is a country where the courts also render justice. And whether there's an appeal or not, that's not the point. The point is that they made a case for a right that the people of St. Joseph felt was theirs legitimately. Now, we will continue to see what happens, and I have every confidence, Ryan, that we will work with you and Dale for the rest of this term to ensure that there is a smooth movement in spite of any appeal. My friends, we are at a stage where conversation matters, because in the process of working, in the process of building, the project is not yet finished. And part and parcel of the anxiety of people is that people expect things overnight. But Barbados is a place where the volume of construction is such that you can see the island almost changing before your very eyes. And I ask us, I ask the people of St. Joseph, I know that the issue of roads continues to bedevil you, and bridges. But believe you me, and Santia pointed out, and St. Thomas knows it, because if we were to try to do every major artery into St. Thomas, how the people in St. Thomas would get out, Peggy? No, they can't get out. And Cynthia appreciates this. But what we can't do equally in St. Joseph is to cut off St. Joseph from the rest of Barbados either. So it means that it is a little more painful and a little longer to do the roads because of the very fact that you cannot maroon the people of St. Joseph. But I have confidence that we shall move forward. Part of the difficulty is that the country is facing, as I told you, a shortage of skills, a shortage of engineers, a shortage of persons, quantity surveyors, a shortage, up to this morning, I was on the phone with the chief land surveyor, a shortage of land surveyors. And whether we like it or not, this is our reality. And that is why we must build a Barbados where as many of our people or the children of Bajans or the grandchildren of Bajans want to come home and to help build back up this country. Because we need their skills, and the more we do without it, the longer it will take to do projects in this country. So Ryan, you have your work cut out. I want to say that in as much as we are welcoming Ryan, we are also saying a slow farewell to Dale. And I say slow because no one knows when the daughter of man cometh to call anything. But Dale Marshall is one of the hardest workers I have ever met in my life. And I say so without fear of contradiction. It does not matter what hour of day or night. I'm not sure what he's doing, but it does not matter what hour of day or night I call him, he always, always, always responds. But part of that has to do with the heavy weight of his office. And he has taken the job of Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs seriously. He has done yeoman service at the very time that the country is facing some of its greatest challenges across the board. And it wasn't only on matters of crime, because on matters of debt restructuring, the Attorney General had to be there. On matters pertaining to COVID and emergency measures, the Attorney General had to be there. On matters pertaining to crime and the reform of the criminal justice system, the Attorney General had to be there. On matters pertaining to the functioning of the rest of the court system and the registry, the Attorney General got to be there. On matters pertaining to whether the marshal's working or not. And Dale has managed to be able to allow this country, on matters pertaining to international relations and CARICOM, the Attorney General and Dale has gone with me to almost every CARICOM heads meeting because of the nature of what we have been facing in the last few years. And I can only say to you, Dale, if it were possible that I could delay the election to keep you, I would do it. But I suspect your people in St. Joseph want me to hurry up and do the other thing. So that I say to you in your home parish of your constituency, that the last 22 years that you have had the honor to serve the people of St. Joseph, I know has meant a lot to you. I say to the people of St. Joseph that I know that I have had to ask you to share him with me and to share him with this country at a time when this country has faced some of the most difficult moments since independence. And I thank you for your understanding. I thank you for your patience. I thank you for being able to allow him to be able to allow us to anchor this country over the course of the last few years. And Dale, I know that even when you have stepped from the floors of Parliament, I have every confidence that knowing who you are, that we will be able to call on you as you have called on previous attorneys general in this country to help you along the way. Thank you, my brother, and God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. I think that one can do better, and you're going to stand with me and say, hip it, hip it, hip it. Sit down there. This is for you. Sit down. One last one, because like he ain't get the memo. Hip it. Thank you. And in Ryan, you are finding a man who is a man of the people. Ryan Braffett is from this parish. Ryan Braffett knows what it is to be able to appreciate people at all stations of life, because he has experienced the very, very good and the very, very difficult and challenging. And you know, Bob Marley told us, he who knows it, he who knows it. And I know that he is not one of the ones who climbs the ladder and kicks down the ladder. He is the one who climbs the ladder and finds more ladders and more ladders and more ladders to be able to allow people to climb in this country. He and I have something in common. We are a lover of music. And in my day, Santia too, we've all done a little music promotion and a little management of music. Michael, you've come to the right party, because I hear you come to play the bass. But Ryan has shown that he is not a man who is focused on one thing, but he has a wide range of interests, not only as an engineer, not only as an entrepreneur in construction, but also in a man who is willing to take risks and to build the entertainment industry in this country. And I say to you, young man, that the most important thing in all that you do from now on is to see people, listen to people, and feel them. Because if you are faithful to the people of this parish, I give you every assurance that this parish will be faithful to you, because that is the nature of St. Joseph people. You have come at a time when we are grappling, as we said, with the infrastructure and the climate crisis. And we know that we have to redesign according to different standards, and we've started doing it in other parts of the country, and we've started doing it with the new designs in the Scotland District Rehabilitation Road Project. We know, and you know better than me, the risk of land slippage. We know, and you know better than me, the other risks that we have faced in this parish with respect to where we can legitimately put housing, because this is not like St. Philip, or it's not like St. Lucy, where you have an abundance of flat land and an abundance of rock, which will allow for housing easily. But what we don't want to lose is the bucolic nature of St. Joseph. St. Joseph is the parish that if you start to feel as though you are choking, like St. Andrew, like St. John, that you come out here and you feel renewed, if only because of the breeze that you're breathing, but equally because of the beauty of the landscape and the warmth of the people of St. Joseph. I hope, my dear brother, that however you construct how you want to continue the work that Dale has started, that you remember that the rural charm of St. Joseph, must forever be part of Barbados. And that is why in Dar, the Scotland District Authority, we are out of the IMF program, and I'm mandating you, because we couldn't start new institutions while we were still in that IMF program easily. But I am mandating you to be able to bring to estimates the transition to the proper Scotland District Authority, because 1/7 of Barbados's land area is affected in this Scotland District. And what is clear is that we need an integrated approach that includes agriculture and stabilization of our infrastructure, that includes how we treat with the population in terms of how people build their houses and how they dispose of their waste, and that we allow St. Joseph the best possible chance to retain this rural bucolic charm that you have. I want to thank you, and I say simply to you that if today is an example of what you can do in mobilization, and if annual conference in winning the prize of all 30 constituency branches is an example of what you can do and achieve in energizing people. And I see some people in here, not just the ones who just came, but some faces that I don't normally see about the Labour Party, which tells me that they got the memo that their seats are moving. And whether it is in St. Joseph or St. Philip or St. John or St. Andrew or St. George or St. Lucy or Christchurch or St. James or wherever, it is this mood and this sense of can-do and this sense of energy and working with people that I want you to continue with. And I say to all others who are coming to run, I want you to emulate in this country. Because the bottom line is that this party is not weary. This party has not finished its job. This party recognizes that between the debt restructuring and COVID, the first 5.5 years did not belong to us. But we are now claiming what is ours, and we are ready to start as if we are starting from anew, but with a track record that shows you that we have brought Barbados back from the brink of economic disaster, that we have had 17 straight quarters of growth, and that unemployment in this country, while at its lowest ever in history, that we have introduced a jobs register, because we believe that there may still be pockets of people who need the opportunity to be able to get jobs and the best possible jobs that they can get in Barbados. And I feel, and you notice that I have not spent time in here today talking about the Democratic Labour Party or the rats, because the time I told you already, people run from rats, and that's all I can say today. People run from rats. But our job is not to win because they are weak. Our job is to win because we are working for Barbados. And when BLP leads, and when BLP leads, and we will always succeed, because in our hearts, we see people, we hear people, we feel people. I have to go tonight. Our president is transitioning, as you know. And I have responsibilities of state tonight with the president in one of her farewell receptions. But I am leaving a man who, if you thought that I was able to give you a little pep in here at the beginning and a little smile in your face, I have every confidence that he is not going to play a T20 innings. He is going to play a T10 innings. Kerry Simmons, come up here.
Oh, Lord!
And I am going to ask you to take the mic from me. But before I do so, Dale Marshall and Ryan, come out here with me. You notice when I come in, what I do with Ryan? I gave him his seat already. It is for you, the people of St. Joseph, to endorse it now. Gary, over to you, my brother.
for your Ryan graduate. Hey! Ooh! Hey!
Good night, crowd of people. We're a little cool. Good night. She was right, you know, when it's a big crowd. I believe that if Ralph Thorne passed that road out there, he would have the belly.
Oh, Lord!
I want to begin by thanking you, the people of St. Joseph, for endorsing this excellent young man, Ryan Brathwaite, who will join this Barbados Labour Party team as we go towards the next election, whensoever it is called. You have heard the Prime Minister just now speak about him a little bit, and so I don't need to tell you what you already know. But he will fit easily into this excellent team of representatives that Barbados Labour Party has offered to you, the people of Barbados. And they got a lot of good people in this team. As I speak, my mind goes through those who are serving with us in the cabinet. And you know, they say that the Labour Party needs to be replaced. So when they say so, I ask with who? And with what? Because it's a team that is batting strong, a team that is deep. You could call any of us at 2 in the morning. Prime Minister knows well, because that's the time she's trying to reach you. And at that time, any one of us who serve the people are able to speak sensibly to any issue in government policy in Barbados. Well, let me be absolutely honest with you, because some of that team comprises bachelors, so you may have to find where they're sleeping first before you call them.
Oh, Lord!
But the important thing is, Ryan is likely only to bring more depth to this team. And we want to welcome you, Ryan, from the bottom of my heart, my brother. I say congratulations, and may your sojourn in St. Joseph be long and fruitful. Travel safely, Prime Minister. I also feel it is important, comrades and friends, at the very beginning, to lend my own words of recognition for the service that my friend Dale Dermott Marshall has offered to the people of St. Joseph. Now, in more recent times, we who have to work with Dale every day will tell you that the advancing years have caused him to get a little crotchety. And he could be a little miserable nowadays in a way that he wasn't before. Dale and I went up the steps of Parliament together after the election of 21st of May 2003. I believe at that time he got 2,700 and something votes. And he has never looked back since then. And we weren't the only ones to go in brand new. William Duguid was with us, and I think Jerome Walcott was with us as well. Though Jerome did not last as long as we did. But he continues to serve the Labour Party faithfully. But the point I want to make about Dale, though, and he forgive me for telling you this, you know, because I torment him now. You know, he just gave away his daughter's hand in marriage. So the son-in-law has the privilege of calling him Pops. I is calling Pops too.
Oh, Lord!
And I said to Pops, my man, you sure you want to do this here? I have given my best. I am sure that this is my time. And you heard him this evening. And I believe that the sincerity that Dale spoke with you, even though I hear the voice crack at the very last sentence, he wouldn't have lasted 2 minutes longer without crying. But I believe the sincerity he spoke to you this evening with is the sincerity he has served you with. And I want to congratulate you, Dale, and to thank you for your service to party, constituency, and to country. Now, my friends, it is important that we do a little bit of national business too, because, I mean, you know, we came here not only to endorse Ryan, but I think we have to talk a little bit of politics. And as we start to talk a little politics, I too will want to welcome my friend, my learned friend, Mr. Michael Lashley, to the Barbados Labour Party. And I do not know, Shaquana, are you to be welcome to the party too, or are you just visiting? Well, let me welcome you in advance. And ladies and gentlemen, let us be very clear what our mission has been. Because this journey over the last 7 years has been a journey that was essentially about doing two things. The first was to stabilize the Barbados economy and to stabilize the Barbadian society. And you would have heard Santia this evening and a few others speak to you about the buses and the bus system in Barbados. And we know that it is a fact. I think Pat called the number. There were 40 or so rolling stock available in this country. And of that 40, some of them were the worst type of rolling stock you will find anywhere in the world. There was a meme on WhatsApp where somebody sat down with one of these phones and record what the inside the bus. They had a hole, and you could see the road underneath, and this was public transportation in Barbados. We have come to a point, colleagues and friends, where we now have 89 electric vehicles in this country. You heard Santia say by December you get 35 more. You heard the Prime Minister say that I believe that carries us to 124. You heard the Prime Minister say that by the middle of next year is 35 more. Good God, 159 electric buses. It is the largest fleet of electric buses to be found anywhere in the Caribbean. This Barbados Labour Party, not satisfied, the stabilization record that we must defend and remind people of. As I look down now, I see the very illustrious tourism minister in front of me. And he would tell you that when we came to office, I preceded him in that ministry, there were travel advisories against Barbados from the United States of America, from the United Kingdom, from Germany, and from Canada. The people out there who we rely on as major source markets for tourism, all were saying, do not come to Barbados. Do not come to Barbados. The South Coast was awash with feces. It was the nastiest place in the world. And they made it clear that it was unfit for their nationals to be visiting. And we had to clean up the South Coast. Today, you can't find an empty hotel room on that South Coast, and that is to the credit of Minister Ian Goodenough, defending the record of this Barbados Labour Party. But we also got to remind the country about the garbage fleet, the collection of garbage in Barbados. Another part of the shameful record of the Democratic Labour Party. 11 trucks to service a whole island, when the average, according to Adrian Ford, that is required is 35. 35 trucks. That is the expected average that should be on the road every day. And we came to office in 2018 to find 11 trucks functioning in Barbados. And today we have carried it past the 35, and we got 50 on the road, 50 rolling stock, collecting garbage all around Barbados, and more are to come. That is the record of this Barbados Labour Party. And lest we forget, comrades and friends, the way we treat the public servants. Because the public servants in Barbados have to be treated with respect. They have to be made to feel that they are welcome, appreciated. They have to be made to feel comfortable on their day-to-day duties. But they were not being paid, and certainly were not being paid well. And for 10 long years in the Democratic Labour Party, there was not a single salary increase for the public servants of Barbados. And the record of this government is that in the space of 7 years, we had 3 salary increases for the public servants of Barbados. Now, we in St. Joseph, and we got to talk a little bit about the agriculture sector. Because that agriculture sector is the breadbasket of this country and this constituency. And when we leave St. Joseph, we're going to St. Thomas in a couple of weeks, and again in the agriculture sector. Indar Ware was not allowed to speak this evening because we were running out of time. But I'm sure that if Indar spoke, he would have taken great pride in reminding you that when we came to office, we were confronted with the ordinary Barbadian women, the mothers of our children, the grandmothers of our children, the aunties of our children, working in the agriculture sector in circumstances where they had to face the elements all day, in circumstances where if you want to relieve yourself, you had the indignity of going in a bush. It was the same agricultural sector environment that Grant Lee Adams confronted when he was Premier of Barbados. It had not changed. Today, there are mobile lunchrooms, if you please. Today, there are mobile toilet facilities, if you please. Today, the lunchrooms are outfitted with portals so that you can charge your phone. Modernized, transformed. Under the Democratic Labour Party, nobody didn't want to talk about doing nothing for the agricultural workers. And we got to speak this language because part of what we are doing now is not campaigning. It is preparing you to defend the record of the Barbados Labour Party. Preparing you to understand that it is this party that confronted an issue that humbugged black people in Barbados since the dawn of time. That if you work in the agriculture sector, you should not be left to the elements. You should not be left to relieve yourself in the bush. That the workers, are people, and they should not be left behind in perpetuity. You heard the Prime Minister talk about water in this parish. And we've heard this story since 2015-16 when we were in opposition. We took charge because the government of the day did not feel it was an issue. But what are the facts? Barbados has to be understood. And if you're going to represent us on the streets as we canvass, you're going to help sell Barbados. Part of what it is that we are doing is to correct some of the issues that are destroying or have been serving to destroy this country. That we are among the 15 most water scarce countries in the world. And not only, comrades and friends, are we water scarce, but Barbados has an enviable reputation of having an aged distribution system. Now, what does the aged distribution system mean? It means that if I got to move water around the country, the pipes that have to do it are ancient. In some cases, 75 and 100 years old. And to replace those pipes comes at great cost. Now, when you hear Ralph Thorne talk, you hear, oh, they're borrowing too much money. You don't hear anybody asking, but how is the money being spent? Is it an important issue or is it not an important issue that you replace the mains in Barbados that are leaking to the extent where we now have a phenomenon called non-revenue water? And what is non-revenue water? It means that the water gets pumped out of the brand new reservoir here, and before it could get to your house, 25% of the water in the pipe has dissipated into the earth. The Barbados Water Authority can't see a cent for it.
And on any given day or night, as I speak to you, 25 to 30% of the water being circulated around this country is disappearing through the pipes because the pipes are in such a disgustingly bad condition. No, we obviously had to fix that. And nobody in the Democratic Labour Party sits down to do the intellectual work. They say, oh, me and Marley flying out too much. Oh, me and Marley borrowing too much money. But what is it that she's supposed to be doing with this money? So let us look at the cost of replacing the 3,000 kilometers of water mains in Barbados. 3,000 kilometers of water mains. And every main to be replaced is being replaced at a cost of $2 million. 3,000 kilometers at a cost of $2 million a main. What's the number? Mikey, you're doing the mental arithmetic. I see you taking over. I can help you, star. It is $2 billion. $2 billion. In fact, no. It is 6 billion. 6 billion. And that is the kind of money that we would have to be looking for if it is that we had to replace all of those mains one time. But you can't replace all one time. In a $12 billion economy, how does Barbados go and borrow $6 billion one time? So incrementally, you have to do it. And if you don't do it, Ralph Thorne, you leave the people in St. Joseph without the new water mains they must get. If we didn't do it, Ralph Thorne, we would not have been able to replace mains when you, Santia, were minister in St. John. In St. John. And all around Barbados, that is the problem. In St. Thomas, mains replacement is a critical issue as well. The Democratic Labour Party does not speak to you in this way. And what is worse is that you just heard the Prime Minister leave here mentioning the question of the debt issue. But we have to find the way of going out into the world and letting lenders understand that that which we are trying to borrow to do is not because we want to live large. You do not replace leaking mains because you want to live large. You replace leaking mains because if you don't have running water to the people in your country, the people in your country will suffer and die. It will destroy your agriculture sector. The households in Barbados must have access to clean and affordable water. You can't have big, hard-back men and women bathing out of a pet bottle every day. You don't go and change out all the mains because that's where you feel fancy. You do it out of necessity. But to do it, as I just pointed out to you, can cost us $6 billion with a B. So what do we say to the international world? We say to them we must have loans at concessional rates to help us finance this fundamental. Because we can't have a tourism industry fueling the economy of Barbados if the tourists can't come here and bathe. You can't tell them go and bathe in the sea. You have to have the restaurants having water to provide food for and drink for them. Then nobody could cook without water. It is a fundamental. And the reality is that that is why we have a leader of government who is out there in the world trying to negotiate with others of like mind, build alliances with others who understand the issue, to say there must be an opportunity for small island developing states like Barbados to be able to access fundamentals like clean water at decent rates of interest when you're borrowing money. And what do they tell you? They tell us they didn't understand it. Nobody has made this case to them. And we say to them, but how the boy make the case to you? We just got to look at life. If it is that we want not just water, if it is that we want more money in order to protect our beaches, and you have a lovely boardwalk on the South Coast, you got one in my constituency down the West Coast, costs great money. But you know that same boardwalk, if you were to build it in Southampton, England, you would be borrowing at 4% or 3% to put a boardwalk on their beach. But because Little Barbados is called a high-risk jurisdiction, and Little Antigua is a high-risk jurisdiction, we got to borrow at 12 and 14%. And we say that is wrong. And somebody has to carry that message to the international community. So let Ralph Thorne know, and let the Dems, the sycophants, the pimps, the parasites who follow him out, that ain't got sense to done with he, like how Shaquana done with he, and how Michael done with he, and how others are going to done with he. Let them know that we go out there, and you can't get out there unless you fly. We expect the woman to swim to New York for meetings. We expect she to swim to London for meetings. Well, she ain't going to picnic. She's going to deal with these issues. Issues of insurance. Issues of insurance. Do you know that when that freak flood, is that what it could be called? Last Sunday, passed through Barbados, desecrate the agriculture sector. Do you know that 90% of the people impacted commercially do not have the insurance to protect them or to carry them in terms of compensation for all that they've lost? And what then does that mean? It means that the government has to step in, as we had to step in with Beryl, in the aftermath of Beryl, to protect fishermen, because they need to have benefits in the aftermath of disaster. But 90% of the people impacted did not have anything to fall back on. And we say to the international community that when we look at what is happening, we are seeing a slow but certain retreat from offering insurance to countries like ours, which desperately need the insurance cover. You see it in the United States, the walk away from insuring people in Florida. You see it in California, they said too much wildfires, boy, that's a risk. We ain't insuring nobody. But we can't say you ain't insuring nobody in Barbados. Well, if you don't insure in Barbados, how does Ian Gooden-Edgell get an investor to come here and build a 200-room hotel to employ your son and your daughter? Nobody is going to invest $200 million in a property I can't insure it. These are the issues that the Democratic Labour Party of today does not make contact with. But these are the issues that we can't escape. And I will go further. Because what we also have to understand is that there is a grand conspiracy, including some people in the media, to keep their mouth shut, that they don't want to talk about these things because they feel that they're helping Ralph Thorne. And there are some people who so dislike Mayor Motley that they will do everything they can, including hurt Barbados, to help Ralph Thorne. Now, I thought that was Faith. Yes, Faith, let me welcome you, my dear. Faith also left a rat behind. And I think he is shedding people like how a bear sheds fur. But I wanted to say this to you. And this is a very serious point now. Do you know that the highest office in the world, I speak to you as Foreign Minister of Barbados, the highest office in the world sent a broad shot across the bow to humbug the efforts being made by this government. We reached out to USAID. Whenever hear about USAID? USAID, it has a budget of about $54 billion every year. And we said to USAID, look, we are trying to do a thing called a climate mitigation effort. whereby we want to have a blue-green bank. And that bank will be available for all countries like ours in the Caribbean to come and borrow some money on appropriate terms and therefore get low-cost financing in order to do some of the things we have to do to build out resilience in our islands. That we got children in schools like this, that when 12 o'clock come, sitting down in a classroom stewing. But we have now to find a way of making schools that look like this a lot more cooler and comfortable for the little children. Otherwise, they can't learn. We got to make sure that the agricultural sector, where we lost thousands of chickens, 10,000 odd birds lost last year in the heat, that we make sure we don't lose the whole poultry industry, so that we have to find a new way of dealing with the poultry sector in Barbados. That's what the Blue Green Bank is supposed to be trying to help people make the adjustment to do. And along came a man called Donald J. Trump. Now I want you all to understand this, because you shouldn't have heard this from me. You shouldn't have to come to a meeting of the Barbados Labour Party when they got a VOB, when a Barbados Today, when they got Nation News. But in September of this year, the White House issued a thing that they call a rescission, saying that the money that we were to get from USAID, $400 million, is antithetical to the interests of America first. He says that it is a thing, he says that the Blue-Green Bank is climate grift. It's an interesting word, G-R-I-F-T, grift. Given its natural and ordinary meaning, the word grift suggests that is a swindle. You understand? No, he could say so. Them could say so. But we can't say so because it is our lived experience that every time we have a climate-related issue, like what we had last Sunday, there's a vast amount of money that the government now got to go and look for. Not only Santia got to look for roads, Vinda got to look to help the people in the agriculture sector. Housing stock flood out. People now got to find a way of either rebuilding or hardening the infrastructure around the house. Peter, half of your constituency affected. Not true? Them could say it is a swindle. But we can't say so. And instead of having an opposition that raises its voice in defense of you, the people of Barbados, we have a midget McGuffey, a monkey man named Thorne. About the place talking about she's fly about too much. Not a word in defense of you, the people, but I'm not surprised, because he is on record in the Parliament of Barbados saying that $5 million that were supposed to be invested into Oystein was foolish money, and he don't want none of that in Oystein for the people of Oystein. He is the only politician in the history of Barbados that has rejected investment in his constituency. The only one. And then they will tell you about the cost of living. They will have you believe that this government has done nothing about the cost of living, and that's something that we have to run from. It is not an issue that the Barbados Labour Party will run from. I want to say to you, it must be an issue that we run on. Because again, I know of no other government in the Caribbean that intervened as the Prime Minister of Barbados did in order to make sure that you put a cap on the amount of petrol costs at the diesel at the gas pump. It could not go past 47 cents a litre. Me and Motley put a cap on it. The diesel could not go past 37 cents a litre. Me and Motley put a cap on that too. Not satisfied, she looked at the cost of freight in this country and said, look, the freight costs were going up and going up and going up. We don't make no containers here. We don't build the containers to ship around the world. So when the container is stranded out in China somewhere because of COVID, or when in the aftermath of COVID, the containers are making the way through the Middle East because of warfare, the cost of a container that was 20 feet. $7,000 when we come into government, Michael. $7,000. But at 2023 prices, that same 20-foot container had gone all through the roof to $14,000. And we say, no, we are going to carry the prices back to where they were when we came in and to hold the prices there. We cannot run away from the issue of the cost of living. The cost of living is real. But what we have to do is to demonstrate that we went in a direction that no other governments were prepared to go and did things that no other governments had done, including if Endar Ware had been able to speak tonight, the fact that in St. Joseph, the agricultural workers, the farmers, are paying $1 for a cubic meter of water in Barbados tonight. $1. When before, all up in $3 a cubic meter. Now Jerome Walcott wants to go to the bar. Not the legal bar, but the social bar. And the work of this evening was to endorse the candidacy and candidature of Ryan Brathwaite, and that work is done. So it's a time for socializing. But as you can tell, I am ready to take on the Democratic Labour Party, even if I take it on by myself. But tonight may not be the night to do that. We will have other opportunities. So pardon? We will have many more opportunities. But I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight to lend support to Ryan. I want to urge you, ladies and gentlemen, for your continued support to this candidate and this party's effort in St. Joseph. And by extension, I want to urge your ongoing support for the Barbados Labour Party nationwide. Nobody knows when the time will come, but it is good that you are all here, and I want you to bring your family and your friends as we continue to do this work on behalf of the people of Barbados. I want to wish you all the very best for independence, and a happy Independence Day, and a happy Republic Day, and I hope to see all of you in St. Thomas 2 weeks from now when this journey continues, and we will settle the issue of who will be the candidate for the Barbados Labour Party in the constituency of St. Thomas. I call no names. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Get home safely.
Succeed. Yes. No baby voice on the light we lead. Hold one another to put the need. All together now. Make me and these legends succeed. Let it go, let it go, let it go. New day break, we rise and shine. Small island, but big design. Big design. Step by step, we meet the need. Okay. Hold one another, plant good seeds.
On the red track, keep it like that. Yeah. We can't go forward by looking back. No. Heads up, hearts up, vibe with beat. Link up, push up, unity.
Yeah. When labor leads, Belgium succeed. Away.